Right, good morning, Yorkshire Classic Cars Limited fans. I'm hoping that I haven't engaged the Crackle Master 3000 microphone. Sorry about the last video. Didn't realise how bad it was. It was only for about a minute and then it cleared, but I noticed a lot of people went off during that crackling, and I get that. Thanks for your subscriptions. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It's free as a bird. I try to keep my content honest and up to date, and you know, whatever really. If you're into your classic cars, there's probably something to sort of cover everyone, or your modifieds. Right, so today's video, back to the job in hand. Today's video, okay, I'm going to concentrate on the Austin 1100, as you can see in the background here. The car needs, if you've seen any of my other updates, you'll see, and I'm just moving around to make sure you can see what I'm talking about. As you can see here, the outer sills have gone right down to here, actually. Some of this does actually come into the wheel arch, but it has gone here and further underneath. The only reason it's still on the trailer is, well, two valuable reasons actually. One is it's still snowing outside, and two, because it's a little bit higher off the floor for me, and it just makes it easier than bending down, quite honestly. I still have a car on the ramp, and while it's on the trailer, where it's just practicality. So the first job, this is going to be a sill change. I have the sills here. Okay, this is the near side sill. Offside sill on the floor here. These are original parts, so these are original BMC parts, which is great, because although they've got a tiny bit of surface rust here and there, which I will clean off before I start welding, obviously, and I'll bob some paint on the inside of those. Those are a good fit, or should be as good a fit as you're going to get. And these, which are the closing panels, okay? The closing panel goes underneath. The sill is this section here, okay? Comes all the way around underneath. The closing panel fits under there. When I've got the car jacked up, you will see that, but that is also rotten, and that joins the inner sill to the outer sill to the inner sill, because a lot of these cars had three sills. Usually just a flat plate of steel, so easy enough to fabricate in there if it needs it, which it probably will. And then the floor sections have actually been changed, so they're nice and solid. I will check the welding around the edges, just make sure in case it needs any more. But what I'm going to start with here is someone has welded an L-shaped plate here. And I've said to the owner that I will remove these and do the job properly so it's strong. Now, these are probably strong. They're not pretty. They're sort of MOT repairs. They're not correct for the car at all. And I imagine, having had my fingers inside here, that the bottom edge of the sill is rotten away. Now, the bottom edge of the sill forms an L shape to the floor, I believe. The owner actually gave me a manual and some original documents so you can see the shape. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to unstitch this piece here, all right, all the way down. It's only little tag welds, so it's just going to be with the angle grinder just to take those out without damaging the original parent metal and the new floors, all being well. Okay, so I'm going to remove those and see what we're dealing with, really. And then I'll bob her off the trailer and we'll start working underneath. So just to talk you through what I'm going to be using, I've just got a 4.5-inch angle grinder. All right, it's a Makita, but to be fair, doesn't really matter. These just last an awful long time. They take a lot of abuse, which obviously in a job like this, they get. So I use a Makita angle grinder, but as I say, they are sponsoring the video, and I don't favour their product. I just like a good quality grinder. I go through a lot of grinders. Maybe it's because my welding didn't neat enough, I don't know. I've got the old eye protection on. Okay, I have some actual eyeglasses, which I prefer, because they're a lot clearer, but I can't find the damn thing, so they're around somewhere. Sometimes I wear my safety glasses, which are my actual seeing eyeglasses, but safety glasses. but they're so expensive. Because of I've had a few eye problems. They're like £600-700 set, so I'd rather not use them in case they get damaged. You can see good enough for this. I'm not doing brain surgery or open heart surgery. In the grinder, I have a cutting disc. It's the 3mm thick cutting disc that I'm going to use the edge of like a grinding disc. That sounds ridiculous, and I'm not recommending you do it, but I use that because it's quick. It makes a nice, neat job if you can control it and use it properly. If I choose to change, I also have a flat disc. I quite like flat discs. They're quiet. They keep the sparks to a minimum, but you will find if you're trying to do a nice, neat, straight grind, you'll tend to get a bit of a radius. So don't always use these. These are a 60 grit. They just get finer and finer, and you never actually throw them away, weirdly. I do tend to use a new one as often as possible because obviously it's just quicker. And quite honestly, when you're doing a job for a customer, they don't want you to save £3.99 on a disc. They'd rather you save X pounds an hour, okay? So I'll be using those. The section, it appears, is longer than I thought it was. I think it goes the full length of the car, full length of the floor, sorry. So I think I'll probably cut it at some stage in the middle. I aren't covering all the windows up. I'll see where the sparks are going. If they're going towards the windows, I'll either wind them down for now. I'll cover the seat. I'll wind both offside windows down and the near side windows down. I'll cover the doors. I can't cover every window, otherwise I just physically can't see what I'm doing. But you do need to be aware that if you get sparks on your windows, it's going to ruin them. Okay? So without further ado, I'll throw a couple of sheets over the windows and off we go. So I've cut down the edges of those welds just briefly there. And what I've grabbed is a sharp wood chisel. This is about a 3/4 wide, but you know, any width will really do. You don't want too narrow. And I can see here there's no weld. So I'm just going to roll that corner across like that. I have a big hammer somewhere, but I can't find the blooming thing. And I've broken my favourite hammer, so... And as you can see there, I'm being careful not to hit into the original panel. And I'm just peeling that away. Now, that one hasn't quite cut through there, and there's still a weld here that I can't get into dress yet. So I'm leaving that for a second. Just pull those a little bit. Right, so that shows me now. This material they've put in here is really thick stuff. It's, gosh, about 1.25 mil, something like that. So it's quite heavy artillery. And because of that, the weld has penetrated quite well into the material they've put on. How well it's penetrated into the parent material, I'm not sure. It doesn't look bad, to be fair. They're not neat welds, but they're not terrible. So again, I'm terrible for looking where I'm hitting rather than what I'm hitting. That's why I'm always knocking my fingers off. So yeah, those need a little bit more cutting out, so I'll do that now. That one would actually go if I give it a tap back towards me. So that one's cutting round. I tend to find when I do the first side like this, it always takes longer than the other side. I'm trying to be careful. I'm trying to do as little damage as possible, obviously. Can I weld holes and gaps and splits back up? Of course I can. I'd be a wrong job if I couldn't. But life's a lot easier in my experience if you don't make them in the first place. It may actually help me to cut down that strip there down the edge. And then I can use that to peel that off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue on and grind all that down there. All right, I'll speed you up to watch that because quite honestly it's the same thing all the way down. And I'll montage that for you. I'll cut down here with a slitting disc, not with those big 3mm discs. I don't like cutting with those. So I'll cut down the edge of this, and then I should be able to peel that up in one go, pretty much. There's some extraneous steel added in somewhere down there. That's interesting. I'm not trying to do an awful lot of work here because I don't want the car to move, obviously. I've got to get it off the ramp, and I don't want the door shuts to move. The door gaps, I assessed before I started. I probably should have said that at the beginning, but I've assessed the door gaps, and they are very good. Are they perfect? No, but none of these cars left the factory with perfect door gaps, so they are good for one of these. So I know the gaps are right, and I know everything is in the right place currently, and that means if I get the job right, they'll still be right. I do see so many people working on cars, professionals as well as people just doing it as a hobby. And you see some of the work and you think, gosh, you haven't put a spreader bar on there, you haven't clamped it, and you've got it jacked up. And you know, I like the weight to be on the wheels when I do things like sills. You don't want this structure twisting while you're removing key strength areas. These are the key strengths to any vehicle of the sills. Right, so I'll montage you up. I'll get those cut out. So, hopefully you just saw me during the montage there, cut a big honking chunk out the back of this 1100. I've put a light in there, hopefully you can see. Excuse me, just let me adjust that for you. Right, so there's the hole under the patch, okay? I'm holding it in an oddball angle, so I'm hoping you can see it. Now, you can see here, and I see this so often, I've seen this so much when I've worked at places like Yorkshire Tribes. There's been a hole in this sill, okay? You can see it here in the inner sill, there, okay? You will see that the repair's been done here. Now that is, however you measure, that's at least 75 mil, 3 inches away from where the rot is. Now, that has been undersealed and then welded over, which is ridiculous. The floors clearly aren't new, after all. However, again, the rot is about a finger's width, so 10 mil, 3/8 of an inch out from the edge there. This should be an L-shaped profile in there. So what they did was technically correct, but too large. So what I'm going to do now, and I'm going to do a section at a time, because obviously there is no sill strength in this car whatsoever. If you look in through the hole here, sorry, I'm doing this all back to front, so I'm hoping you can see. If you can see there, you can see the inner, and you can see the outer sill, and you can see my ratchet strap, which is there. There is no sill strength at all. So what I'm going to do with this, rather than folding up massive sections and welding them in, which I acknowledge would be quicker, to retain the strength of the vehicle and maintain its structure and its shape, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this section here. So there's a small repair here for I don't know what reason, really. It doesn't even appear to be very well welded in. So I'm going to take that out. I'm going to dress all this back here, so all these horrible welds that they've put on, and I'm going to clean this up thoroughly, okay? So I can ascertain where the rot is. And then I'm going to cut nice and neatly down the inner and the outer and put an L-shaped section in and seam weld it along. Hopefully I'm going to start here, and I'm going to finish around here, and I'm going to leave this piece in. Okay, it's not particularly well attached at the moment, but that's still in and it's still maintaining some strength in the car. Okay, this, as you can see, isn't doing anything. The piece you can see here is what's left of the closing panels. Okay, so that's underneath the closing panel. The sill is out here. So what we're going to do first is repair this section of the floor. So I'll just whip along there, clean all this off, and then come back to you and we'll make a patch. Flap this to remove these welds, these shonky welds here. As you can see, I've ripped the metal around them a little bit here and there. That's so I don't wreck the sill shape. Same here, same here, same here, same here. And then I'll give it a good cleaning up with a wire wheel. Again, make sure you've got your goggles on for your wire wheel. Absolutely check. It's a bit like putting your wallet in your pocket. I shall remove this section and this section because I'm just looking now and you can see there's a fold here. So somebody's done this atrocity. So that all needs to come out as well. And I'll probably check that message I just got, that WhatsApp. So yeah, so hopefully within the next sort of hour, I'll have a piece welded in there, back into here. I won't be touching this section here yet. We'll establish what needs to be done there afterwards. So I'll put this piece in here first and we'll seam weld it top and bottom. Okie dokie, come back to you in a minute. Just see I've given it a bit of a vacuuming out. I'm going to show you the extent of the issue so far. Okay, so if I can turn you around carefully, you can see there the box section at the rear. Now that is really structural. Obviously sills, floors, everything has structure in a car. Occasionally people say, it's not structural. Well, just about everything adds to the structure if it's steel and it's welded in there. So you can see the extent of the damage there. There was a patch in that corner that was quite naughty. It's had a piece put under the floor here. And I'm not actually sure if the owner wants me to get rid of that or not. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to weld above that and make a nice smart repair above it. So I shall put some sections in there and make that how it should be. If he then wants me to remove that section, I don't know if he's had that section put in or or if he wants to fix that, because obviously he wants to do some of this work himself. Now, you can see lower down here, this is where I've cut that last patch off, and we're into fairly solid metal there. I haven't cleaned that bit back. I have cleaned this back. Now, rather than make a stepped weird shape here, I am going to cut along here where the weld was. It does mean dressing the panel a little here to shape it. Okay, hopefully you can see that where I'm pointing. It does mean shaping it here, not here. Because I've had to cut this section back here where my fingers are. Sorry, I'm looking at my fingers and not at the phone. Because I've had to shape this a little here to take the rust out that was in there. There's no point. I'm not going to cut a section that goes down here and across here and like that. It just, A, it looks ridiculous. B, it's more work. And C, it doesn't add any strength or anything. And to be honest, it just looks unprofessional in my opinion. Only my 2 penneth. So I'm going to make a section to go in there now. I need to check the structure because I aren't sure if this section of floor here and this section are one piece originally. If they are, then obviously that'll become an L-shaped section down there. I will be cutting any of this rust and rot out. I won't leave any of that in at all. You don't want to leave any rust in. If you cover it up, it's just going to come back and bite you. The shape has got a little damaged here. It's been pulled out of shape and braid, and it's buckled in a little bit here, and it's proud here. So I'll reshape that a little bit as well. The next element is to make the sections once I've cut that out and cleaned it up. This is where the job is key, and I'll show you that once I get onto it. But I'll clean all this up now, and then I'll come back to you once I've cleaned that up. I'm going to make a pot of tea because it is still snowing quite heavily outside. Although you will notice jackets come off, the hats come off. It is hard work, is this, when you're working at it. You get really warm. So I'm going to trim out, clean up, trim out, dress, and fix all this panel now to the point where it's ready to repair it. Weld all this up, and then I'll probably do the next section on the next video. Okie dokie. So, following on from where we were before, as you can see, the job has grown a little bit, and this is kind of atypical of classic cars, and especially ones where there's been a fair bit of bodgery in the past. So as you can see here, I've had to cut this section out here where the cross member is, because the bottom of the inner sill floor section there is absolutely shot all the way up. That has got to be repaired properly. There's no bodgery involved in that. I've got to cut that out and repair that entire section. You can see where this here, you can see where I'm pointing my finger there. Sorry, I'm blocking the light. That seam here is the original top of the floor. Now, I've had a little look while I had a sandwich, and the floor comes out, curls up. Obviously, this is all floor. It's not actually in a sill, it's all floor. And then that lip there is where that section joins. So what I need to do here is cut this section out right across, dress that angle off, and weld the section back in there. That should then progress under the floor. Now, if I can just turn you around under the lamp there, you can see here, that's a panel that somebody's welded in underneath, and it's horrible. It is seam welded in. You can see the weld here. And I was going to actually leave that in for the customer because it was solid, and although he just wanted me to do the sills, really, we weren't going to attack the floors. We thought the floors were good, actually, because they looked like they've been changed, but they haven't. They've been red oxided, and that is it. And I am going to have to dig an awful lot further into here. So this job is probably going to progress a little bit. What I will do is I'll see what needs to be done to get that correct. This section here is obviously a new piece that's been let in. And that's good news because that's very, very structural to this floor section underneath. I can feel, I'm just feeling it now as I speak to you. There's a seam along the back edge of that, which is quite easy to fix. However, I would need it up in the air, which is quite difficult at the moment. And as the snow is settling, I don't particularly want to take the car out like this. So yeah, just readdressing really. I need to get all this rot out. And And although I am having to cut into stuff like this is quite solid here, but unfortunately you've got to get this out, and to get to that I do need to take that out, so I am going to have to cut some more of that out. It's no use boxing in rot, and if I progress the light under there, you can see that some of it is solid, but some of it back there is absolutely rotten. Hopefully you can see in there. It's not easy to see with the camera, but the back panel is good. New or old, that is good. I don't care whether it's new or old, it doesn't make any difference to me. This is quite solid here, this floor section. It actually feels reasonably solid. It's just not pretty in there, but I would like to get that ground out and painted up. This here is absolutely rotten where they've welded the section in. They've welded it into about where my finger is here, so all that needs to come out. It's just a weirdly shaped bodgery affair, really. Just done by someone who clearly don't know what they're doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that section of the floor. May need to do some of it up underneath, so it might be just worth bobbing her off the trailer now, and we'll have a look at getting that repaired. Okie dokie. Right, so you'll see I've got the car off the trailer now. It's on blocks, so it's still on its weight, okay? Now, I appreciate those look really precarious, and you're thinking, lunatic, but I have actually got the handbrake on. It's in gear, so front and rear is locked, and the wheels are chocked front and rear. So the chance of it dropping down are minimal. I will have an axle stand under the car, under the rear subframe and under the front subframe, so don't worry too much about that. So if the worst did happen, it wouldn't squish me. Don't think it'll move, genuinely don't, but you never know. Rather to be safe than sorry. Right, so the reason I've got it off the trailer now is because the repairs required have gone ever so slightly turbo. So you can see here the old closing panel welded on there and the issues with other sections of the floor there, hopefully, if I've got the torch in the right place. You can see the sill issues also. It is only the bottom edge of the sill, though, to be fair to the little car. You can also see the inner sill. It isn't connected at all anywhere, all the way down, which is incredibly important. The reason I've stopped mostly is because of that. As you can see, this is a previous repair, and just marvel at the quality of that welding under there. That, you know, if you can only do welding like that upside down, don't weld, is all I can say about that. That is just awful. There's pinholes in it, and when I say pinholes, you could walk through them. There's bits where it's not attached. You can see my angle grinder cut there through the bracket. So I'm going to take all that out. This now is not part of the job. The job I've priced up was obviously the inner and outer sills and the inner sills. The inner sill being part of the floor. However, I would rather get this right. So I'm going to take this part off. Oops, let me just put the light down. This part off. These are like a jacking point. That's coming off. I'll just make a new one of those. That's no problem whatsoever. I shall cut this out. Okay. I will make sure I'm into some good steel, and I will repair this rear section of floor and the inner section, which is what we were looking at initially. This has to be right. And what I'm going to do there is then, so I'm going to cut all this out. All that section is going to be history all the way. I'll take all this as well, all this closing panel, because it's got to come out anyway. You'll see there's like a seam here where it's spot welded together. Similarly here, where the original floor is, we can see that's the original floor, and it's caked in oil because it's a 1970s British car. And what I'll do is I'll cut this edge off here, and I'll weld a new edge into that nice, clean, lovely steel behind there. I'll make it a little bit longer for now. And then what I'll do is, as I put this section in, I'll trim it off and make it a nice section like that. Now, this is rolled over, similar to a stag sill. So the outer sill on a stag goes down, it's spot welded on, then it rolls under. Now, I can form that afterwards. That's no problem, one iota. And I'm going to put a piece in there now and then choose where I'm going to do that. And then I think I will do the inner section, the part here, that should be attached to So this here should be attached to this here. That should all be one piece. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make that afterwards, I think, or in two pieces and weld them together and then install it. I've always got into the case of trying to make super elaborate, massive panels, and sometimes it just ends up a massive waste of steel and too complex. So I will do that first. I may go right up to this edge. We'll see. I might cut that as one section, but I think what I'll do is I'll probably cut off where they roughly have and do that, and then that'll put the strength back into this corner of the car and we can progress. Lovely. Okay, so this is going to last part of today's video. I'm just going to show you here. Obviously, this job has now gone a little bit above and beyond what we expected, so I need to contact my customer before continuing, really, because obviously it's not fair to do work and say, now you just owe me a load more money. So yeah, I've cut out here. This is the floor section that should be joined to here, to this floor here. Let me, sorry about that. This section here should be part of this section here. That should all be one piece. This should be welded here, to the heel board here, where these are the mounts for things like the subframe and stuff. Okay. Right, I can't remember. Either way, this section here where all this is tied into the inner sill here, the outer sill, wheel arch and outer sill here is absolutely Swiss cheese. Now, I can make a section here and repair that, add that into the floor to add strength, and then start and work out through here. But this really doesn't, it's a lot more work to start and be cutting out, obviously, into the inner arches and things. We knew the inner arch was going to need work at the bottom, but I didn't expect it to be quite this bad. So obviously I need to discuss this with my customer. So I will draw this video to a close here. The next video will be me continuing with it, all being well. But obviously, if he doesn't want to go there, or if he wants to take it elsewhere or anything, that's obviously up to him. But I'll discuss what it's going to cost with him, and then we shall continue. And hopefully, I'll be back to putting some good steel back in here. But the plan is, I'm assuming he'll want it done. This is, he's a really nice guy, but I don't want to run him a huge bill up by accident. Remove this rot here. Put a section in across the bottom of here, so as I can put the floor section in front of it and spot weld it on. Build a floor section and remove the rust and rot from this part here. Okay, so I'll cut across here and then up there and put a new section in there. I may make a full section, actually, I don't know yet. And that'll go in there. This will probably be made in two parts. The floor will be one part, the flat section of the floor, and the curved upper part, because this is quite a complicated section to make, with a nice radius on it. I quite like making bits like that, but it's not a 10-minute job. And then I'll probably, once that's a good fit, I'll then weld this part, the new part that I'm making for here, to the flat section, grind it back so you can't see that there's a seam, and then put all that in one piece. This here, this is the closing panel, and this is, you can see, I don't know if you can see there where my finger is, that's spot welded on along here. So that, the floor comes across like that, and then that boxes into the inner sill, and then the inner sill boxes into the outer sill. So it's a very strong structure. But of course, with that strength means that when you remove parts like this, it becomes weak, very, very weak. And it's part of when people scab over the top of it with welding. It gets you through the MOT because it looks solid, but it isn't how it should be, and therefore isn't correct. So yeah, draw it to an end there, stop waffling, sorry about that. That's the next stage, assuming he's happy for me to continue, but as I say, it seems only appropriate to let him know. But I'll keep cleaning this up ready, and then I'll give you a shout in the next video. Thanks, bye-bye.